Hey everyone, this is Marcia Hoeck, and Ed Roach is here with me too. So you want to say hello, Ed?
Hello, Ed. Hello, everyone. Glad to be here. Looking forward to this today.
Thanks, Ed. And you're in the right place if you're here to learn about how you can increase your income by positioning yourself as a branding expert, even if that's not something that you've been focusing on up to this point. And before we get started, Ed, do you want to tell everyone where they can get the handout for today's session, even if they didn't get it already?
Sure. I know Jenny sent it out to everyone, but they may not have gotten it yet. They can go to brandinghandouts.com. It's a simple little website where they can upload download the PDF file branding yourself. And they can also get last week's handout as well if they'd like to have that. So it's not absolutely necessary for today's talk, but I think if you had it with you, it'd be easier to recall what we've said today. So before we dive into the content, we'd like to tell you a little bit about why we're qualified to do the teaching today and why you should bother listening to us. And my buddy Marcia here, do you want to get started on that?
Thanks, Ed. Um, okay, this isn't as easy to control as I thought it was. You're gonna have to bear with me. All right, there we go. Um, After 15 or 20 years of owning my own marketing communications firm, people started taking me out to lunch to pick my brain, and there were two questions that they really wanted to know. They wanted to know how I kept clients for 5, 8, 14, 15 years, and they also wanted to know how I was keeping my clients or my employees for so long. By the time I actually sold my marketing communications firm, I had employees that were with me for 20 and 22 years. And I was able to do this while still keeping a sane schedule myself. I took vacations when I wanted to. I took a month off in the summer. I never worked weekends, and we were busy almost all of the time, up to the gills. And I was able to take a lot of time off because I had great people and systems back at the fort. And I started realizing that people were asking me these questions because they wanted their businesses to run like that too. So I started doing some research and I started talking to design firms, and I found out that many design firms didn't have the systems and processes and philosophies in place that worked so well for me. So I decided to start writing down what I was doing, and I started teaching it. And in 2009, I enjoyed the teaching and the consulting that I was doing so much that I sold the assets of my creative firm. I actually sold it to my employees, and I started coaching full time. And a lot of what I teach is based on the mistakes that I made as well as the things that I did right. So I've been in the trenches right where you are for a long time. I'm not teaching this out of any book that I learned while I was in school. This is all in the trenches stuff that I'm teaching. And when it comes to branding, what I teach is the process that I used with my clients. I learned it, I tweaked it, I perfected it with my clients on branding programs that I was doing with them. Branding was a big part of my business, and we charged between $20,000 and $50,000 for our process. And that's before we even started on the design work. Now, I am no longer creating brands for clients. Today, I am teaching my branding process to the designers that are my clients. And Ed and I met over 10 years ago at a How function at the MYOB event in Phoenix, and we've been mastermind partners ever since. Okay, Ed, you're up.
I'm up. Well, okay, I'm a Canadian, so I'm the Canadian contingent here. And I've been in the graphic design business since 1986. And in that time, I've worked with hundreds of small and medium-sized enterprises. And about 7 years ago, I stopped being solely a graphic design firm and became a branding consultant, which is not to say I don't do graphic design anymore, because I do, because the branding does bring me more graphic design work. And this has allowed me to work with companies using my own branding processes that I've developed with Marcia and a couple of other keynote friends. And that effectively focuses my client's brand to that of a leader in their category. It's also catapulted my brand from a graphic designer to a thought leader. Now, as a result, I've been interviewed in all kinds of media across the continent regarding branding small businesses, and I blog extensively and use the digital realm on the web to connect and promote my services worldwide. I have international speaking experience, including a really nice gig I did in Prague, Czech Republic. And I'm also the author of a new book I put up this year called 101 Branding Tips, Practical Advice for Your Brand that you can use today. That's gotten me a lot of notoriety and really good for promoting yourself. We'll talk about that later. I also have a far-reaching experience from my result of blogging about branding. I got to do the brand strategy for Dar Rapid Transit Authority in Tanzania, Africa. That was something else that branding brought my way. My clients are typically from Canada, the United States, Ukraine, India, United Arab Emirates, and Tanzania. So what Marcia and I are discussing today is based on, like she said, on our experience, not just theory we picked up. We practice what we preach. I'm still actively selling branding. As a matter of fact, I start one next week. And this is for a minimum $20,000 per project. And this is something you should be keenly addressing as well. And I assume the fact that you registered for today's webinar, you are aware and you are keenly interested. So let's get started here. There's lots of information to get out there.
Okay, before Ed dives in with our first topic, I want to be perfectly clear because of the title of our webinar today, how to position yourself as a branding expert even if you've never done it before. This webinar is for designers who have already been doing some aspect of branding already, such as logos and identity packages, but you may be stopping short of giving clients an extra level of service. Now, we're not advocating that you position yourself inauthentically, like if you don't know anything at all about branding, but if you're already designing parts of a client's brand, this more strategic part of branding is something that you can add to your business, and there are multiple benefits for doing it, including bringing more money into your business. So Ed's going to start us off. Ed, why don't you talk about why it is so difficult to position your firm?
Great. Okay, Marcia. Typically, let's say starting off, I would say, why is it so difficult to position your firm really has to do with the designer's mindset. He's typically, of course, he doesn't think of himself this way. He sees himself solely as a designer, not as a strategist or a consultant or anything like that. They want to be everything to everyone. This isn't unusual with any small business, really. Graphic designers are no different. They're afraid, of course, if they put themselves down to a niche, that they're going to alienate somebody and leave some money on the table. So they obviously want to be all things to all people. We're creative people, we're problem solvers, and we want to help everyone. But with being a brand person or brand consultant, as I say, because that's what you have to pretty much position yourself as, it develops a lot more opportunities for you and gets you into a lot more areas where you can make more money and then get back to design from there. We think we know enough to have a position to be an expert, but really you don't yet. Because with branding, the way we identify it, myself especially, when I look at branding, I see the word reputation as opposed to a lot of graphic designers in my area and other parts of the continent that I talk to. When they speak about brands, they always talk about doing the logo and doing the marketing materials. And to them, that's rebranding a company. And I typically tell customers, if that's all you're hearing from your graphic design firm, you should pull up your britches and run. But what I have clients do, and this is what you should be doing, is looking at yourself more as a consultant, more as a strategy person, moving forward like that. You don't have to feel like an imposter by doing this. I mean, a lot of people tell me, well, I really don't feel like a consultant, Ed. Like, how can I position myself that way before I talk to a customer? And essentially, you have to do it that way because, again, what you're going to love about being a branding consultant is you do not become a commodity. I've never had a case where I've presented my expertise as a branding person to a company where they have tried to talk me down in price or were shocked by my price. When I go in at a minimum $20,000, being a consultant, what happens there is they just pay it. They don't even question it. But that also puts you on a whole different level. And ways around this is like I said, the challenge of it. Again, like I said earlier, we practice what we preach. So becoming this is something you have to get your head around and absolutely recognize, just like Marcia said a few minutes ago, that you actually do a lot of branding right now. There's just elements of it that we want to add to your portfolio repertoire, as it were, so that you can position yourself as that expert, as that consultant.